Hello and welcome to Monday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, and I hope for those of you in the UK you've had a very enjoyable bank holiday today. Now, I think we have got something really potentially amazing to try today. It's a puzzle called Coordi-Loop by Celery, and this has been slowly garnering recommendation after recommendation from the great and the good of the Sudoku community. I think the puzzle's about a month or so old. But just over the last few days, I don't know whether this is a coordinated campaign from brilliant solvers and setters, but the emails we've been getting have been eulogistic. People saying that this elevates Celery to the sort of levels of the J. Dyers and Fistenfels of the world. This puzzle is apparently absolutely stunning. I have read the rules before I turned on the webcam, and they are unusual to say the least, and we're certainly going to have to be drawing some loops today. So actually what I should do to start this, because I don't often do this, is I should run through some of the options in the software, the solving software that Sven has created that we use on the channel. So what you need to do if you want to draw loops is to click the cog icon on the right of the screen, and you get all of these tools you can enable. Now, enable your pen tool. That is my big tip. I always have my pen tool available. It's like a Swiss Army knife of Sudoku. You must always have your pen tool close to hand. I always have my letter tool also close to hand, as you can see. So I have lots of things turned on. And that, if you have your pen tool turned on, if you click on the sort of most right-hand icon, right of the grid, you can do things like this, and you can even change the color of the thing that you draw, and you can even draw along the boundaries like this as well, and you can do X's by clicking. It really is fantastic. So, you know, big thanks and big props to Sven. It opens up a whole world of puzzles we couldn't otherwise really show very well on the channel. And we certainly recommend that you support Sven. Get Sven's Sudoku pad. We normally put a link in every video that we do, and there's always information about Sven's Sudoku pad under the video in the video description as well. It's really cheap. It costs a couple of bucks, and you can enter in your own classic Sudokus into that software and play the puzzles, and frankly it is best in class, so we'd certainly recommend that you do that. Anyway, this is what we're going to be having a go today. Should I talk about apps? I should talk about other apps as well. Mark keeps reminding me that I never mention our suite of apps. We do have a suite of apps. And very popular recently has been the gas apps, the genuinely approachable Sudoku apps. But we also have, of course, things like Thermo Sudoku, Killer Sudoku, Miracle Sudoku, Sandwich Sudoku, all of these sorts of apps as well, and they get very well rated, and they're very different from your standard Sudoku apps because they contain handcrafted puzzles. Not only do they contain any old handcrafted puzzles either, they contain handcrafted puzzles by the best puzzle makers in the world. So you know what you're getting, and they're definitely worth checking out. Do I have anything else? I've got no birthdays to do today. Patreon, you know about. Check that out if you're interested in joining the best Sudoku club on earth. But I think we should just get on with Coordi-Loop and find out why this puzzle is so highly thought of. I mean, really stellar stuff has been said about this puzzle. These are the rules. Normal Sudoku rules apply. So the numbers 1 to 9 in each row, column, and 3 by 3 box. That's fairly straightforward. Then we've got to draw a loop that travels around the grid orthogonally through the center of cells. So orthogonally means the loop can't move diagonally. It must, every time it goes from cell to cell, it must cross an edge. It can't go through, it can't do that. That is not an those two cells that are joined there are not orthogonally connected because they don't share an edge. So so that might be a loop segment we find in this puzzle. Right, the loop must pass through each 3 by 3 box at least once. So we're going to have to do some, make sure that I don't know, let's draw a loop. No, I'm going to get a 2 by 2 if I do that. Yeah, okay, so that could be a loop, I think. I think that's a totally legitimate loop. No 2 by 2 area can fully contain loop cells, so we can't make the loop do anything like that. There would be a 2 by 2 there that's completely got loop in it. Right, and adjacent digits upon the loop must differ by at least 5. So we're building a big German whisper constraint into the puzzle. So if this was loop, I don't know, and this was a 1, this square would have to be at least a 6, because it must be at least 5 different from 1. So it's 6, 7, 8, 9. If this was 9, this would have to be 2, 3, or 4 now. It couldn't be 1 by Sudoku. So that's sort of what we're being asked to do. That's not the end of the rules, though. There's another paragraph of rules. Let me scroll down. In a cage, digits must sum to the total brackets z in the top left corner of the cage, if given. Well, we're only given one cage total, I think. So it could have said, the given 6, but it never doesn't mention that. Additionally, each cage will reveal a coordinate, row x, column y, with x being the uppermost / leftmost digit, and y being the lowermost rightmost digit, whereby z must be placed. Okay, so if this was a 1 and a 2, this would be saying we have to put in row 1, column 2, so in this square we have to write 3, which is the sum of those two digits. That is what I think is going on. Each cage's coordinate cell must be part of the loop. So this 3 cell would then be on the loop, and cages are allowed to reference the same cell multiple times throughout the puzzle. So that's telling us, I think, that could be a 1-2 pair as well, because this would be saying row 1, column 2 is a 3 again. So we can have the same reference from two of these cages. The given 6 cage is unique. No other cage can sum to 6, is the other criteria. So this is the only 6 cage in the puzzle, and that, I think, is all the rules. I'll just scroll down. That is all of the rules. Coordi-Loop by Celery. Do have a go. The way to play is to click the link under the video, as usual. But now I get to play. I've been looking forward to this. Let's get cracking. Now, what are we actually given here? Very, very little, aren't we? We're given... We've got to build a German whispers loop. Right, hang on. I've got very little I can tell you about this. I guess we start with the 6 cage, do we? 6 in 2 cells is 1, 5 or 2, 4. Right, I see. Good grief. Okay, so already that's quite interesting. Wow, okay. So I think to understand what I understand about this 6 cage, we're going to have to talk secrets. Not secrets as in totals, but secrets as in German whispers. There are some secrets about... In fact, I must draw the line in green, mustn't I? Because this is a German whispers line, and they're typically green. So let's talk about a green line and there are some properties of green lines that I think we're going to have to use here. The first property of the line, the loop we're going to draw, where the adjacent digits have to differ by at least 5, is that you can't put 5 on the loop. And that's because if we do try and put the 5 on the loop, what are we going to fill into an adjacent cell on the loop? The answer is there is no Sudoku digit that you can put in, because a digit that's 5 away from 5, if we go upwards we get to 10, well that's not a Sudoku digit, and neither is anything higher than 10. If we go downwards we get to 0, that's not a Sudoku digit, and anything lower than 0 also won't work. So we can't put 5 on the loop. Now that means that every digit on the loop can be classified as either below 5 or above 5, and the interesting thing about the way that these lines work is that they oscillate their polarity. So imagine this square was a 1, 2, 3 or 4, so it's lower than 5. What would this square be? Well, we can immediately say it must be higher than 5, because even if this was as low as it can be and we only add the minimum of 5 to it, we'd still get to 6. If this was 1 and we only added 5 to it, we'd still get 6, which is the other side of 5. And if this was as high as it could be, and we only deduct the minimum total, which would be a 9 here, and we only deduct 5, we'd still get to 4, which is the other side of 5. So this would be low, high, low. Now, there's one more secret or one more corollary that drops out of that logic, which is that there are two digits that are very, very restricted on Whisper's lines, the so-called monogamous digits, 6 and 4. Why do I call them monogamous? It's because they only have one partner. So if you put a 4 on the line, then the only digit that you could put in an adjacent cell would be a 9, because it's the only digit that's 5 away. If you put a 6 on the line, the only digit you can put on the line is 1 next to the 6. So what does that mean in terms of this sixth cage down here? Well, it means something quite cool, because if this is 1, 5, it's pointing at this square, and if this is 5, 1, it's pointing at this square, row 5, sorry, yeah, that's right, row 1, column 5, or row 5, column 1. And it's telling us to put a 6 into one of those squares. So if this is 1, 5, we have to put a 6 on the loop in either this position or this position. Well, how's that going to work? Because on however we draw the loop through the 6, on one side of it we have to put a 1, and on the other side we have to put a 1. And because of where it's positioned within its 3x3 box, we will inevitably end up with 2 1s in the box, which is rather cool, isn't it? So we can instantly say, well, not instantly, it took a little bit of explaining, but we can instantly deduce from the 6 gauge that this is a 2-4 cage, which is pointing either there or there, row 4, column 2, or row 2, column 4. And we have to write 6 into one of those squares. And that's interesting. That's fascinating, because that means, bear in mind that the loop has to continue through the 6. So this 6, wherever it goes, is going to have 1 on both sides of it. Well, one of the ones is going to have to be in this box or this box, but the other one will have to be across the boundary into a different box. So one of those two squares now is a 1, which is absolutely bizarre. No, okay, and so one of these is, yeah, okay, so one of these is on the loop. And one of these is, at least one of these is on the loop, but one of these is a 1 and on the loop. And one of these, imagine this was on the loop. That would mean this was a 1, but there must be a 1 on the other side of the 6, so one of those is going to be a 1. So there's sort of the same pattern is going to emerge there, depending on which one of these is 6. You're either going to end up with 1, 6, and then one of these on the loop, or 1, 6, and one of these on the loop. And presumably, come on brain, there's a way that we can tell which of those is correct. Well, good grief. Right, I've had another thought, actually. Oh, I'm already falling in love with this puzzle. Right. Here is a thought. Is it correct to checkerboard the grid? There is a question. I bet you didn't think that was going to be my next sentence, but that is my next sentence. Is it correct to checkerboard, to shade in this grid in a checkerboard? If you can't think why that might be important, pause the video, because I think that's quite a sensible thing to do. Yeah, because of the polarity we talked about earlier, where we always have to oscillate low, high, low, high, low, high, or high, low, high, low, high, low. If we know, and we do know, that one of those two squares is a high digit, then we know that any cell in this puzzle that is on the same bishop's colour from a chess perspective as these two cells will be high, and any cell on the other colour will be low. If it's on the loop, it would have to be low. Because if you think, imagine this was on the loop. So imagine the loop did that. Well, clearly, if the loop went into this cell, that cell's going to be a low number, isn't it? And wherever it goes from this cell, its next cell is going to be sort of 2 away from this one, and therefore is going to be high, because the polarity will have shifted back to the high digits. So that means that what we ought to do, I think, is have a look at the grid with shading and see what that looks like, because we're instantly going to be able to... Hang on, let me just do this. Try not to lose my army. There we go. What colour should we make this? Light green? We don't want it... I don't think we want it to be too offensive. No, that's offensive. I think we'll go light green. I mean, that's very clearly checkerboarded, isn't it? Yeah, so what we can say here... Well, okay, this is lovely. In a funny way, I think now we can state this cell is not on the loop. And that's because I know one of these is a 6, so all the green... Any cell in green that's on the loop is high by the whispers polarity. So if this was on the loop, it should be a 6, 7, 8, 9, and isn't. So what should we do? Do I put an X in that cell, or do I just remember it? It's a bit... I'm not sure. Oh, and now if I draw a loop... Oh no, the green is darker green for the loop that we'll be drawing. So either that is a line segment on the loop, or that is a line segment on the loop. Yeah, and what we can't do here, we can't just double click on all the white cells and fill them in with 1s, 2s, 3s and 4s, for example, because if they're not on the loop, they're not restricted. Here's another strange thought. This diagonal here... Oh no, hang on. No, that's fine. That can still be on the loop, providing it's not coordinated. Yeah, it can't... You can't... None of the cages can point at this diagonal, I think. And that's because that diagonal, if you think about the coordinate of this square, it's row 1, column 4. So if this was row 1, column 4, I'd have to be told that there's a 5 in this cell on the loop. Well, we know we can't put 5 on the loop at all. So it works sort of diagonally, because this would be row 2, column 3. So if this was 2, 3, that would add up to 5. That would require a 5 on the loop here. Oh my goodness me. Oh my goodness me. Wow. Wow. Celery, take a bow. That is absolutely astonishing. That is absolutely astonishing. I don't know whether to tell you what I've just seen, or just tell you you simply must pause the video and stare at this puzzle now, for as long as it takes to get something utterly ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. That is one of the most brilliant things I have ever seen on this channel, Celery. It is unbelievably brilliant. Okay, I'm going to tell you what it is now. So if you don't want to know and you think you might be able to get it, pause the video, think about checkerboarding, think hard about checkerboarding, because when you get this, it will blow your mind. think also about the fact that we're told the given 6 cage is unique and no other cage in this puzzle sums to 6, because that is important. Because I am going to tell you something now that will, if you haven't noticed it, it will blow your mind. I know what every single cage in this puzzle sums to. I know what every single cage in this puzzle sums to. I told you. That's good, isn't it? That is good. How on earth do I know this? Well, it's because I was thinking about the fact this couldn't be 5 on the diagonal. And that got me wondering what it could be. What coordinates can you have in this puzzle? Now, if we wanted to clue a 9 into a cell, well, that's going to correspond to this diagonal, I think. Because for example, we could have a 1 here and an 8 here. 1 and 8 sums to 9. That's saying row 1, column 8. That's there. But if we want to clue a 9, we could have 2, 7. Well, that's there. And anything we clue that adds up to 9 is along this diagonal. And what colour is this diagonal? Well, it's white. And white digits, if they're on the loop, are low digits. They are not high digits. So 9 is simply impossible to be put in. I'm going to come back to 8 in a moment, but 8 corresponds to this diagonal here, and that's quite interesting. What about 7? Well, 7, again, is anything on that diagonal. Row 1, column 6, row 2, column 5, row 3, column 4. So this diagonal is impossible to clue, because were it to be clued, the polarity of the loop would be wrong. 6. Yes, we can clue a 6, and indeed this does, but in one of those 2 positions, and we don't know which one, but that's the only 6 in the puzzle. What about 5? Well, we've dealt with that. What about 4? Well, now the unbelievable thing is it flips round. So if we had a cage that was 3, 1, that would be row 3, column 1. That's there. But that's on a green cell now. So it needs to be high polarity, and 3 and 1 add to 4. That's on the low side of 5. That does not work. Now, I didn't actually, in my brain before, well, 2, yeah, I didn't think 2 could work, and 2 can't work, can it? Because if you try and clue a 2, the only way of doing it is with a double 1 in a cage, and that's just not going to work. So okay, so my first thought was right, which is the only valid totals now for all of these cages are going to point to coordinates on what is in effect the 8 diagonal, which is this one, and that is the only one that has the right so that's not on the right. So on the 8 diagonal, which is this one, all the cages have to point to a cell on this diagonal. Let's give it a purple flash, but they can't point there, because that's not an 8. So you can't have anything that has in it row 7, column 1. Row 7, column 1 is not a legitimate way to do this. Row 7, column 1 doesn't work. That one doesn't work, because what would that be? That's row 4, column 4. That's impossible. Row 4, if we put 2 4s in the same, if we put row 4, column 4 as a coordinate, it's going to break Sudoku rules. So every single one of these cages is either row 1, column 7, row 2, column 6, row 3, column 5. And it could only be one of those, actually. Look at that. It could only be one of those. Row 4, column 4 doesn't work. Row 5, column 3. Or row 6, column 2. And forget about row 7, column 1, because that won't work. Right. Right. Okay, well, I've got one more deduction for you then. as a result of this. This is one of my favourite. If this carries on in this vein, this will be one of my favourite puzzles I've ever solved on the channel. But I've got another deduction. No, I haven't. Oh, yes, I have. Oh, yes, I have. Right. Okay. So now I want to look at these because from the 2-4 logic down here, there is a 1 in one of these cells. But I know these cages sum to 8, which means there's a 7 in one of these cells. Now, this cannot be a 7. Because that's the deadly square that we cannot index, because row 7 column 1 cannot be an 8. So this is lovely, because this is going to swing the loop up here. But this cannot be 6, because it would force this to be 1, which forces this to be 7, which points at this square. So we can take out all of those pencil marks, I think. And this has to be 6. And this has to be 1. And this has to be 7. And row 1, column 7, which is there, is now an 8 and is on the loop. How do I show that? Maybe I'll give it a circle, pro tem, just to make sure I realise what that means. Right, so this is why part of the instructions is saying that some of these have to point to the same cell, because how many cages have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We've got 10 coordinates, and well, we could put 1 8 in one of those, 1 8 in one of those. So there's oh, hang on, there really are not many actually. There really are very few coordinates we can do. We can do one of those. One of these two could be an 8, and one of these two could be an 8. But otherwise, and that's an 8, but you can't put 8 there, and you can't put 8 there. So there's only 3 8s on this diagonal as an absolute maximum. So these, however many dominoes there were. Oh, my phone is buzzing. Let me just check. That's okay. However many coordinates there are, they can look at a maximum of 3 different 8s. And they can never begin with 7, can they? Yeah, Sorry, I realise that this is probably obvious to some of you exactly what I should be doing next. I haven't quite worked it out. I tell you what I can do. I can draw the loop in there. I can't really... I'm going to change, actually. I think I'm going to go to that to draw the loop, because I've got this green checkerboarding going on. Right, so if this was a 1, if this was on the loop, if the loop went there, we couldn't go here because that would create a 2 by 2. So we'd have to go there. And that would have to be... This would be a 1, this would be a 7, and that would be pointing again at this square. So that seems quite plausible. Either that or we go here, in which case we can't go there because that will create a 2 by 2. I don't know. I'm not sure. Okay. So how do we do this then? How do we do this? I tell you something I know. I know that digit now, don't I? Because this is cluing this 6. So we need row 4, column 2. So 8, okay, 8 in this box. We know it can't, because this all the cages sum to 8, so we can't put 8 in here. So 8 goes in one of those 2 squares, which means 8 is in one of these 3 squares. Now, okay, all right, I can now eliminate, because that means that's not an 8, so that loses its purplage. So that means that we really are reducing the number of possible coordinated cells now. It's either row 3, column 5. I'm tempted, actually. I don't know if I can do... Oh, no, I couldn't. What I was going to do, which is a little bit ham, but we'll do it anyway, is I was going to write into all of the first positions the possible coordinates that we can do. So we know we can have the row 1, 8. We know we can have row 3, column 5. We know we could have row 5, column 3. And we know we could have row 6, column... No, that's fine. I was thinking we couldn't have row 6, column 2, because it would, for some reason, this 2 was militating against that, but I think we can. Row 6, column 2. So the first positions, or the first digits in these coordinates are always from one of four thingies. And the second position, which is this one, 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 and this one, have to be from what's going to be the second coordinate, isn't it? So it's 7 is possible if it's this one. If it's this one, it's got to be a 5. If it's, and that doesn't matter because that's, yeah, I was suddenly thinking 3, 5, is that a problem from the whisper? But no, that's just the coordinate, so that's all right. 3 if it's row 5, column 3, or 2 if it's row 6, column 2. So we get this pattern emerging. Now, can we do anything with that? Well, we can do a little bit with that, actually. We can get rid of 1, 7 here, for example. That's true, isn't it? And get rid of 2 and 6 from here. And we can get rid of 7 and 1 from here. So this is 3, 5. Why can't this be 2, 6? It can't be 6, 2. I can see that. Why can't it be 2, 6? Which would be, oh, because this is the 8. Good grief! Well, this is enormous. Because now I know one of the... Oh, this can't be an 8. Oh, my goodness. Oh, don't believe it. This is so brilliant. I cannot tell you. Right, so this is saying that either row 5, column 3 cannot be an 8. Sorry, I should have picked that up immediately. I didn't at all. Yeah, because it's in a cage. So this must be cluing row 3, column 5. And it must be, we must put an 8 here. And now that's an 8. This cannot be an 8. So none of my coordinates can be pointing at row 5, column 3. So 5 comes out of the first position in all of these. Hang on, let's get this right. 5 comes out of the first position in all these coordinates, and 3 comes out of the second position in all these coordinates. So this one is down to 2. We've got a 1, 3, 6 triple in the central column. Oh, good grief. Right. Well, okay. This is beautiful, because now if I know that there's a 1, a 3 and a 6 in a cage in the first position in column 5, then all 3 of those must be 8s, mustn't they? Because one of these is going to be a 6, which is this, which must correspond to this 8. So one of these is a 6, 2, and it's so we must write the 8 it corresponds to into the grid, which means this is an 8 by Sudoku. That 8 is the wrong colour, so that's not on the loop. Oh, right, okay, well, hang on. Have we made a boo-boo now, then? Okay, because I'm suddenly worried about getting this... Oh, this loop can turn down. Right, we need to think about how the loop's going to get out of this box, because it can't go into the 8 now. The polarity would be wrong, so we can sort of hive off the 8. It can never go into a 5 ever, which means it can't go into the 3, and yet it's got to get out of this out of box 3 without creating a 2 by 2. So I think it's got to go there. And then it can't go there, or it'll create a 2 by 2. So it's got. Oh, I've broken it. I have broken it. Oh dear, oh dear. What did I do wrong there? Don't know. I don't know, but I've done something wrong, because there's no way of getting this out of this box, I don't think. Unless I... Oh no, hang on, I could go through the 8. Ah, hang on, I've missed a trick. I thought I couldn't go... No, the 8's the wrong polarity. That is the wrong... I cannot go through that 8, sorry. I will return to my earlier thought. So this has to be... Wow, I'm stymied. I'm stymied. Unless... What on earth have I done wrong? Sorry, I am now perplexed. Absolutely bamboozled. I can't go through the 5. I could go through the 8, but it's got the wrong polarity. That's the whole point of my checkerboarding. I can go through the 7, but only into a 2 or a 1. And I don't see how I get to that unless I bounce back on myself and create a 2 by 2. So I've misunderstood something here. I've mispencil marked something. Row 3, column 5 is this cell. That cell is on the loop. This cell I know is on the loop. This cell I know is on the loop because it must be referenced somewhere in this column. If I go there, I can't get out. I don't see how I could get out. I must go to the 7. It feels like it wants to come out here, doesn't it? But I don't see how it can. 8, 8, 8. Wow, I'm baffled because the logic to this point has been beyond. It's absolutely stunning. But I've managed to get my loop stranded. I don't want to strand my loop. If that's on the loop, it would have to be a 2. And it can't be. I don't understand. This felt incredibly, it felt magical, the logic to this point. Absolutely magical. 1, 3, and 6. And the column numbers associated with the 8s are 7, 5, and 2. Ah. Hang on, I have just realised one thing I did wrong, which is I've got 4 and 2 in here. And that's definitely not in row 4, column 2. That's in row 2, column 4. Now, did I use that somehow in the logic that I did? Did that get rid of an option from this cage? I don't remember. Wow, okay. I think I better unwind. I think we've got a really good understanding of what's going on. But I think whenever I put in this 4-2 down here, oh gosh, it's a long way back, isn't it? It is a long way back, but I've got to do it. I'm so sorry, but I don't think it's going to take long for us to go back to that point, because I think I've understood more about the puzzle. So, for example, I've understood firstly that this is a 2 and that's a 4. That's one thing we've understood. That is the first thing we've understood. Now, the next thing we've understood is that it's certainly true to say in this box the 8 is in one of those 2 squares, which means this cannot be an 8 and loses its purpliage. That's true. the next thing we can say is that this can't be an 8 because it's in a cage, so that loses its purpleage. And that means that the total panoply of coordinates that can be in the puzzle are, so in other words, the opening digits in these positions are only able to be, let's make sure we get this right, the rows corresponding to the purple digits, 1, 3, and 6. I can certainly see that there are some possibilities that aren't okay there. And the column digits there, which are going to be all of these digits, have to be, sorry, I know I'm doing this slowly, but I've obviously made a mistake once. I don't want to make a mistake again. 2, 5, or 7. And then the logic is good again. I see 3 coordinates that must appear. I must have an 8 in corresponding to this, I must have an 8 corresponding to this, and I must have an 8 corresponding to this. So all 3 of these possibilities are now 8s, and all 3 of these possibilities are on the loop. So that's all forced. Now, yes, maybe this is where, because when this was 4, 2, I think I took a digit out of here, and that's what's given me a trouble, isn't it? Now, this is great. This is great. Or is it? Well, this 8 gives me an 8 here. That 8 is the wrong colour, so my instinct there was good. Can't go in the corner, that's not going to work, is it? Now. Okay. So if I do go into this square, that has to be a 9. Because it couldn't be 6, 7, or 8, but would have to be a high digit. If I go into this square, I can't go into the top square, look. If I go into that square, how do I get out without creating a 2 by 2? I can't. I either double back on myself or I create a 2 by 2 there. Either way round, that's not going to work. So that's not on the loop. And once that's not on the loop as a northernmost segment there, it can't be on a loop there either. So that's not in, so this is not in. Right. Okay, this is getting interesting. Yeah, there's more tidying up I can do here as well. That's a 1. Yeah, the 7, if that was on the loop, it could never go into the 3 or the 6. That was what was causing the problem before. So I can put an X in there. This can't be a connection. Because nothing here is 5 apart. So how do we get out of this box is what I'm thinking. Isn't that a forced loop segment? And if that is, or if that's true, it's got to be a 2, which would be amazing. How do I get out of box 1? Okay, the ways I could get out, I could turn down and then I couldn't go that way, so I'd have to turn here and go down. That's one possibility. Or I can go there and then I have to turn down and go out. So I do always, that is always a loop segment. So that is always on the whisper, and therefore it cannot be a 5. So that's a 2, that's a 6. That's a high digit that is either 7, it's 7 or 9, isn't it? It can't be 8 by Sudoku. This is a 6-2 pair. This is a 6, so this isn't a 6, and therefore that isn't a 2. If that was on the loop, it would have to be a 7. 4. 4 is a little bit restricted in the top row. 4, don't forget, 4 is monogamous as well, isn't it? So if it was on the loop, we'd have to be very careful with it, but it can't be actually on the loop up there. Right, so where should we go from here? We could turn into this square if this is 9 and we turn into a 3. That would be okay. And then we'd have to duck and avoid the 5. There is a 2 in one of those squares by our old friend Sudoku, our fair-weathered friend. Now we've got a 1, 3, 6 triple here. Is that doing anything? We've got a 2. All right, 2 comes out of that square, so 6 comes out of this square. Okay, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure where I'm meant to look here, if I'm honest. Is there something... These coordinates, are they actually useful anymore? Beyond the fact that we've got some candidate marking for these squares. Because I already know these cells are all on the loop. Oh, if that's on the loop, it can't go down into the 4. Look, that won't work. Oh, and the 2 is the wrong colour, isn't it? So that can never be on the loop because it should be high. Because if it's on the loop, it's a green cell. So what's this? All right, what's this cell doing? Okay, here is a question. How is this square not on the loop? If that's not on the loop, that's a corner, and that's going to create a 2 by 2 now. So this is on the loop. And it's a low digit, which is not 4. So that is either 2 or 3. Which is fine, isn't it? And then we can't ever go up from there because that's got the wrong polarity. So we can sort of hive off a number of these cells. Where else could we do that? So if we ever get a green cell that has to be a low digit from candidate marking, it can never be on the loop. Don't know now. Now I'm feeling a bit stuck. Could we... Is it going to be Sudoku, maybe? Or something else? It is Sudoku. Oh, that's beautiful. It's a beautiful... Oh, this is the sort of thing that makes me love this puzzle more, because it's... When you find it, it's like, oh, I should have got that earlier. That's totally reasonable. And it is. Okay, how could that be a 3-5 pair? It can't be a 3-5 pair. The moment you think about Sudoku, you get it. If that's a 3-5 pair, you've got to put 3 and 5 in there. And there's no such thing in this puzzle as Schrödinger cells. So that doesn't work. So instead, what we've got to do is make this 1. Oh, well, this is great. This is great. Because not only is this one 7, which means this is not 1 and this is not 7, but this is the one that this 6 needs. So we have to turn up there, up there. We can't make a 2 by 2, so we've then got to go here. And that square must be a 2. Because otherwise, this 7 is nearly monogamous. It's a bigamous digit. It only partners up 1s and 2s. So now if we go there, that's got to be a 9. Oh, no. Okay, we can't do that. For the reason that's creating an 8 corner there, which is going to create a 2 by 2 of loop. So actually we have to go there, which is lovely. He says, trying to work out what it means. I don't know what it means, but it's lovely. Whatever. Okay, has this... Right, that has done some things. Oh, no, it has done a lot of things. Those 2 squares can't be 2 now. So these 2 squares can't be 6. So this is a 1-3 pair. That means this is a 6 and this is a 2. Ooh, which means 2 is in one of those 2 squares at the bottom. Can we go any further than that? We might be able to. Or not. I don't know. There's definitely a 6 in one of those squares at the top. Yeah, this can't be on the loop because it would need to be next to a 1. So that corner cell is off the loop. So this 8, if it continues this way, it's got to continue into a 3 in this square. And then it would have to turn down into a 9, which looks like it might be able to do that. Or it goes down here, but this could be a 2 or a 3. Okay, so I can't immediately see how that moves. Oh, this has still got to be on the loop, does it? Yeah, so this is going to cause there to be a 3 in one of those 3 cells. Because whichever one of these is taken by the loop, the 8 has to be next to a 1, 2 or a 3, doesn't it? And it can't be next to a 1 or a 2, so there is definitely a 3. Oh, the 3 isn't there. So by Sudoku from this 1-3 pair. So there is a 3 in one of these 2 squares, which is on the loop. That sort of feels like it nearly matters. 4, 5 and 9. This has got to be a 4 or a 9 in the middle of the grid. Unfortunately, I think this square can be anything. Now, okay, so what do we think we're meant to do next? I don't know. Not clear. But I'm going to savour this. I'm going to take my time and enjoy this because this is a wonderful puzzle. 5. Okay, there has to be a 7 down here by Sudoku. And there has to be a 5 either there or there. And wherever the 5 goes, it's going to rule out loop, isn't it? Oh, this square can never be on the loop anyway, because that would create a 2 by 2. So that's certainly not open or available for this 8, which I suppose we could have got another way by noting where the 3 is and noting this would have had to be a low 4, which it couldn't be because 4 and 8 are too close to each other. Feels like that's going to be a natural loop segment, doesn't it? In fact, does it have to be? Is that the point? Yes, it is. How could this not go down? Well, then the 8 would have to have 3 and, well, it would have to have a 1 or a 2 on one side, and it can't. So it does go down there, and it goes into box 5, but it doesn't tell us what the nature of this digit is. That could still be 1 or 3. I think it's very difficult for the loop to go there now, isn't it? Because where would it, if it does that, where's its next digit coming from? It either creates a 2 by 2 there, or it creates a 2 by 2 here. So it doesn't turn left, it turns right. Now it can't go down. If it goes up, it's going to create a 2 by 2 on one side, so it goes there. And this is great, because that's going to mean this is a 3, that's a 1, this is a 7, that's not 7, that's not 1. This square's got to be a high digit, that's exactly equal to 9. Now, what does that mean? That means if this is on the loop, well, we've got to get this out. I suppose it could just come straight down. If that's on the loop, it has to be a 7. I'm not sure whether that's possible or not. Okay. Now we can see that that's not on the loop anymore, because otherwise we're going to create a 2 by 2. This is a low digit, so if this was on the loop, it would have to be the 9. What else have we got left to place in this box? We've got 4, 5 and 9. That's not 1 anymore. So let's put the 4, 5 and 9 in and see if we can see anything clever as a result of that. That's not 9 by Sudoku. So these are from 1, 4 and 5. And there's definitely a 1 over here. Now we've got a very pretty picture, but we haven't quite figured this out. Well, okay, here is a thought. This 8 has to connect up with this, doesn't it? Because what we can't do is exit. Well, we could exit. No, that's not true. We could exit like that, but then this 8 is stranded. It can't get out of the box. So these two have to connect to one another. And therefore, how are they going to do that? Is perhaps a question we should be asking. Is there any sort of restriction? I mean, one option, if this carries on here, is going to be that. And that's going to require a 1 and a 3 into these squares. That actually looks plausible to me. Oh, whoopsie. Ah! I didn't mean to do that. Let's do that. The other option would be if we just go straight up like this, and then this square would be, well, it depends what this one is. In fact, there would be options. This could be 1 or 3 again. Alright, so although I do know this connects directly, I don't know how it connects directly. Right, let's try and do something else then. What about 5, 7. That can't be 5 by Sudoku. So this is 4 or 9. Do we have to think about the loop being able to visit every box? How does it visit box 7? Yeah, okay. So it has to visit this cell, doesn't it? Because if it didn't visit this cell, let's take that cell out of bounds. How would the loop get into box 7? Well, because the 4 and the 2 can't be used, it would have to come in and out like that, and that's a 2 by 2. So this is definitely on the loop. Now, does that mean it has to go here? Do we have to go in directly, or could we still... Yeah, if that's on the loop, we can't do that, or that's going to create a corner, which is a 2 by 2. So we do come down into this square. Now, that might be important. Or not. It means that's an 8. Oopsie. It means this is an 8 or a 9. But now we've done our visit to box 7, so we don't exactly know where we have to go from there. What could we do? I don't know. Is it going to be... Is there some mysterious Sudoku that we need to do? That's not an 8 anymore, I can see that. It's definitely a 2 here. The 1, 3 pair there. So we need 4, 5 and 9 in this column. That's a 4, 5 or a 9. Oh, 7 in this box is placed, look, by Sudoku. It's got to go in that cell, which is a very tempting cell, isn't it? That looks like it's been designed. We can't go into this square because the exit from it wouldn't be into a digit of the right polarity, so that square's out of bounds. We can never get into this area of the grid. So the question is whether we take this 7 or not. I don't know the answer. I can see that 2 is in one of those two positions. Can we get 7 in this box? No. Can we get... 7's not there. Oh dear. Oh dear. Is there a simple way to see what to do here? I don't know. 8s, 9s, 4s. Oh, I don't just want this to somehow, me to come to an absolute halt. That would be a disastrous thing to happen. 1, 4, 5. Do I know more than I think I know about... I do. 6 in the middle box has to go there. That's quite good. So 6 in box 4 has to go here, which means this is a 2 and this is a 3. Right, which means this is a 1 and this is a 3 by Sudoku. That's a 7 and that's a 5. Well, that's a little flurry of activity that we were looking for. We were definitely looking for it. Now, does it help? Does it help that I know this is a 3? It doesn't fix this digit at all. I think it does make it right. So we can now think about how the loop closes between these two positions. Because if we do decide to come into row 6, column 1 and turn, we have to take 2 more low digits on the loop. And they would have to be a 1-4 pair, and 4 can go in neither of those positions because it's monogamous and would have 9 on both sides of it. So that doesn't work. So we have to turn up, and therefore we have to close. And if we have to do that, we get a 1 here out of nowhere. Oh, it's just really hard to see. But that's a 1. There's a 1 down here now. That doesn't tell us what this is, which is a shame. It does tell us there's a 1 in one of those squares, which is not a shame. 2, 4, 8 and 9 into these squares. I'm going to pencil mark it in proper Goodliff fashion. Yeah, okay, so if this has got... No, it hasn't. That's not even true, Simon. Do not say things in videos that are not true. That will not endear you to your audience. 4 is in one of those squares, so 4 is here. So these squares at the top are 3, 5. Oh, we could get a 3 in the corner if that's a 3. How can we force that to happen? Don't know. 9 in the top row is in those squares, so 9 is not here. So this has come down right down to 3 or 5. 5 in this box is over here. Look, in fact, 5 is in one of 2 places, so that's not a 5 in the corner. So we're down to a 50-50 chance with a 3 or a 9 here. Okay, so in this column, look, we've got 5s, 8s and 9s to place. Right, oh, this is huge. That's huge. That is huge, because now, where does this go? The loop can't turn into the 4, because the 4 would have 9 on both sides of it, and those 9s would see each other, so it doesn't go there. It can't go down now, because this is either a 5 or of the same polarity, so we have to turn that way, and then we can't go up. And we get the digit. That's a 3 by the power of being low. And somehow... Oh, I don't believe it. That's a mean 3 because it's not doing anything. So this is 5, 8, 9 over on this side. And, well, 3 can't go into 6, and it can't go up without creating a 2 by 2. So 3 goes down where it needs an 8 or a 9 beneath it. And that, oh, that's great. That's great. Because we need digits that are 5 away. So this is not 7, which means that's a 7, which still doesn't do very much, but it does, well, it does actually, because that gives me a 2, 4, 8, 9 quadruple, which means that square's a 5, which means this is a 4, 9 pair, which means that this square is 2, 3 or 5, and somehow that's not resolved. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. And the loop could go through it still as well. That's quite incredible. Okay, but the 4 in this column is in this sequence. So that does the middle digit. That does that 9 and that 4. And that puts a 5 at the bottom of the grid, which does the 2 and the 6 over on this side. So that's a little bit of a bonus. Yeah. 6s, look, there's a 6, 7 pair. Oh, in fact, that's a 6 by Sudoku. So 6, 7, 1, 3 all go into the grid in a flurry of activity. Now, this is massive. Look, that's 3 in the corner. That's 3 in the spotlight, losing its religion. 6 and 2 go into the grid. So this isn't 2 anymore, which doesn't stop it being a 3, unfortunately. That square we can do, it's a 5. Oh, if that's a 5, that's a 3. Okay. So these squares are a 1, 4 pair. We're probably going to be able to do all sorts of loopage off the back of this, but we'll wait for that pleasure in it. We'll get that in a moment or two. This can't go into a 7. It's got to go into the 2. Then the 2 can't go into a 6 or a 5. They're too close to it, so it must go here, where this square needs to be a 7. Well, it can't be 7, it's an 8 or a 9, and it's not a 9, so that's an 8, that's a 9, that's a 5. That's nearly brilliant, but not quite brilliant enough. That's now a 4. So the 8, oh, the 8 could go into the 1. Ah, okay, so we don't know what the next move is. Right, so let's just pause for breath and see if we can do anything else clever. 6 I can place in this box, I think. There are 4 6s looking at it. If we click all of those 6s, it seems to suggest this is a 6, which is on the right colour. Ah, no. Well, it is, but it's not. That is the right colour for 6 to be on the loop, but the 6 would have to have double 1 around it, and one of its 1s would have to not be in this box, which would require this to be a 1, and in fact, look, the 1 is up there as well. So this 6 is off the loop. That's probably worth recording. Or not. This is not a 5, because of this 5. So that tells me the 5 in the row is there, which tells me that there's a 5 in one of these. Now the loop won't be able to go through both of these squares, therefore, because that's going to be too many 5s. There's a 9 here, so these squares are 2, 4 and 8. So, yeah, okay. Oh, actually, so we could go 8, 2, and then where would we go? Nowhere. Yeah, where does this go is an interesting question. If we do turn left, we've got to go into the 8. And then we'd have to turn down into the 2. In fact, in which that can't be a 2 even. So it's even worse. If we go into the 8 here, we've got to go into a 4, and 4 and 8 are too close to each other. So this has to go straight down into the 9. Now we need a digit that's low, that's not 4, because there would be double 9 around it. So we must go straight down into the 1. Now we mustn't make a 2 by 2, so we can't go there. So we have to turn out and go into the 7. And we've got to be a bit careful here not to create a 2 by 2 enclosing the loop. So I'm not quite that feels a bit dodgy to me, but it might be fine. We've either got to go there or there, because we can't go up without creating a 2 by 2. So something's going on as the loop exits box 5. Ooh, we can close the loop here now. It can't go into the 5, so it's got to do that. Now, can we get the closure of the loop here? Oh yeah, we can. Look, the loop can never go into a 5, so it goes into the 3, where it can't go into a 7, so it must close. So we are getting there. We are building our loop. With the loop, well, we've got to be very careful now, because how does the loop get into box 6 at all? Well, it must take this square. Oh, I see, and that 5, that's so beautiful. That is such a beautiful step. Look, so we're faced with the challenge at this point of how we ever get the loop into box 6. Now, how could we do it without taking that square? No, there's no way, because we'd have to come up here. Whoopsie, we'd have to come up there through a 5, which we can't even do, and then get out, which there would be no way to do it. So we know that this is loop, which means this square is not 5, which means this square is 5, and therefore stops us going up from this loop segment, which has created a corner of the loop. So that forces this shape, and that means nothing else in this box is possibly in the loop, because if we did go up, we couldn't get out again. So we might just be able to close the loop here. Oh no, we can't close the loop. That will create a 2 by 2. So we mustn't close the loop. We can't go into the 4, so we've got to go here. And then the 7 can't go into the 8 or the 9. So that's the final bit of the loop done. Has the loop done? The loop is done. The loop is done. Is that a great big C we've drawn in the grid? Hang on a minute. Let me Yeah. Oh my goodness, look at this. We've built a great big C for celery in the grid. Or C for cracking the cryptic, or C for Coordi-Loop. I don't know what the C is for. I'm going to say it's for celery. Celery deserves this loop as a homage to one of the greatest puzzles we have ever seen on the channel. This is absolutely, it feels so fresh, all this logic, doesn't it? It's so interesting. Now, look, what have we got here? 1, 4, 1, 3, 4. Okay, but I think, look, the 7 needs to not be next to a 3 or the 4, so that we get a 1 there. Therefore, this is not a 1 anymore. We must put 2 and something, 2 and 4 into these squares. Well, the 2 must be next to the 7s, because the 4 can't be. So that does a little bit of stuff for us. 2 comes out of this square, so we get a 2 up here. 8 goes in there by Sudoku. This is a 4. We need 5 and 9 along this row. That's 9, therefore. That's 5. That's great. Now we need 1, 3, 7 and 8 up here. Can we do that? This is a 1, 8 pair. And this must be 3 and 7, which we can do. So 7 and 3 go into the grid. 3 and 4, 4 and 1, 1 and 8, 9, 8, 9, 8 in the corner. Now this is a 7 by our old friend Sudoku. That's a 9. If we haven't made an error, that is a 4. And that is as brilliant a puzzle as I think we have ever seen on this channel. That is absolutely brilliant. Puzzle doesn't include solutions, so we don't know for certain this is correct. But I think, I mean, it felt incredibly logical, didn't it? And it's absolutely brilliant. That is one of the all-time great puzzles. I'm tempted, actually, to take out Control A, isn't it? To take out all of the colour. And I definitely, and to highlight in some spectacular fashion my loop, which is totally symmetrical and a perfect C. Well, congratulations, Celery. My mind is blown. There are so many points in that, and it is so hard to do. Think about how many puzzles we do on the channel. It's so hard to make logic feel completely new and completely amazing. But the point at which I noticed that these cages all added up to 8, I will remember that. That is absolutely breathtaking. And then I really liked steps like the fact that you could use the triple that emerged in this column to know where the 8s were. I mean, it's a masterpiece, an absolute masterpiece. Please tell me in the comments if you had a go at this. Please rain down plaudits on Celery for this one, because this deserves it. This is an absolute worldie, and I loved it. And let me know in the comments how you got on too. I enjoy the comments, especially when they're kind, and we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.